Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player games, writer, voyager, recorder of videos, and a tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to This Week in D&D, where I break down the news surrounding Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and the tabletop RPG industry. And we've got some news that we get to talk about. I'm kind of bummed. I just saw the breaking news that Polygon just was sold and is experiencing or has experienced massive layoffs and everything. That really bums me out. I have contributed to Polygon in the past, and there's a lot of great people that work and write there, so that is a huge bummer and really puts me in a funky mood to start a live stream. But we're gonna shoulder on through it. The first topic we're going to talk about is an update to the Sage Advice and the errata for the new 2024 core rulebook, I believe, which I have not actually gone into the Sage Advice since I don't know, it's been on D&D Beyond, I think, and it's nice and I like the way it's organized. Unfortunately, I don't see that they kind of organize it or include dates on here, so I don't know which ones are actually new or if this is all new. But I guess this incorporate. I mean, it's been around forever. Which is basically it's like their frequently asked questions, right? It's like things that come up, and it's nice to have it all organized in one space, as opposed to like having to do like a Google search and figuring out like what Jeremy Crawford said on Twitter one day or something. Instead, a lot of the frequently asked questions for things that have come up, like whether they're edge cases or just confusion, I guess that bubbles up from having the rules, and even the 2024 rules, which I think did a good job of, and that was kind of partly the purpose, right? Was like clearing up a lot of that confusion and kind of streamlining some of the rules. Are now all of those extra information and edge cases are here in the Sage Advice area. I don't know. Is there anything that is there anything that I wouldn't know by now? my own hubris for my knowledge of which there's plenty that we're constantly having to figure out. While we're playing the games, there's a ton I don't know, but I don't. That's a good question. Can you move through the space of a prone enemy? You can move through the space of an enemy only if that enemy has the incapacitated condition, is a tiny creature, or is at least 2 sizes larger or smaller than you. The prone condition doesn't override this. I think that's something that we've been playing fast and loose with in my games, but I believe that's like a halfling ability, is to be able to break the rule of at least maybe the 2 sizes larger than you thing, so I should probably not be too fast and loose with that. Can a bonus action be used as an action or vice versa? No, actions and bonus actions are not interchangeable. That's good to know, since I guess that's maybe not quite spelled out in the rule book. There's a lot of stuff about readied actions, too. I think that was the biggest source of confusion for a lot of folks. Also, hide clarifications are on here. If I'm hidden to become unhidden when I shoot an arrow at a target, does hiding again require an action? You damn right it does. Although I think there's also an ability. Again, a lot of these you can almost infer about what the correct ruling is based on if you just know all of the character abilities. Like I think there's a later rogue subclass ability that allows you to stay hidden when you attack, for example. There's a ton of stuff about readying actions. Can a barbarian multi-class fighter use maneuvers while raging? Nothing in the barbarian's rage feature precludes the use of maneuvers. Yeah, absolutely. So angry, but yet I can still riposte and parry. Which you could flavor the anger as, in fact, I think Frey in our Remember the Frostbane campaign was always like, it was just kind of this whistling madness. You weren't even like angry. She was almost like gleeful when she fought, which was really fun. I wonder if anybody's played a Barbarian Battlemaster combo. That could be interesting. But yeah, the only thing you can't do is cast spells or concentrate on spells, I believe. Can a rogue monk use sneak attacks with unarmed strike? The sneak attack feature works with a weapon that has the finesse or ranged property. An unarmed strike isn't a weapon, so it doesn't qualify. In contrast, a rogue monk can use sneak attack with a monk weapon. That is kind of dumb. Like, aren't my fists just as sneaky? That is kind of dumb. An armed strike isn't a weapon. Well, tell that to Nicolas Cage in Con Air, where he goes to prison because his body is a weapon or whatever bullshit the fucking judge throws at him. You have to use the same weapon for all attacks. No limitation on what you use for the attacks. There's just a lot of... I mean, I guess I shouldn't go through all these, but there's a lot of good questions in here that might be worth having this open while playing D&D in case these questions come up, and then hitting the old like Control F or something and being able to find the answer just in case it's... This would be like the first thing would be asking your DM, and if the DM has to look up a rule, it may already be asked here. Specifically stuff about sorcerers, empowered spells, background information. There's only one thing under background. Or no, it's a species trait. Wait, where's background? Oh, can you have more than one background? No. Why could you have more than one background? Establishes key aspects of your life where you might... Yeah, because there's all those abilities tied to the background. Wow, yeah, feats and species trait, not a whole lot on there, so they really tried to clean that stuff up. Oh yeah, the crossbow thing. Does crossbow expert let you fire a hand crossbow and then fire it again as a bonus action? Crossbow expert. So I dual wielded crossbows in our high level campaign that we played a couple years ago, and I thought it was really fun. Allows you to fire a hand crossbow multiple times on your turn, but you still must abide by the rules of the hand crossbow's light property, which states the property's additional attack must be made with a different weapon. Yeah. But I think if you have 2 hand crossbows, is that what I did? And then you could fire the other... I don't know. There was some... mechanically, even if it doesn't quite fit in the rules, I know, like, it's not even terribly efficient, because hand crossbows, I think, are weaker than, like, a normal crossbow roll. Can my character wield 2 heavy weapons if they have the dual wielder feat? The dual wielder feat allows you to simultaneously draw 2 weapons that lack the 2-handed property. All heavy weapons in the player's handbook have the 2-handed property, so they don't benefit from this feat. If you're a spellcaster, can you pick your own class when you pick the Magic Initiate feat? Why would you not think that? Yes. Yeah, you can just get another spell. So yeah, this is on D&D Beyond. And I think there's a lot of actually really good information here. I like the way it's presented with their drop down. I actually really like the UI for D&D Beyond in general, which it does this for all their stuff, where it's these kind of dynamic like drop down menus that make it easy to navigate and find things. James says we do the acrobatic check to move through an enemy, which is a little Yeah, I think if I really wanted to like get in the weeds of allowing my players to do that. So I think our own rule was that you could do it, but it would trigger an attack of opportunity and it would count as difficult terrain. Which is not the worst ruling, I guess. Because otherwise you're just straight up can't do it, right? You have to like shove them. Which I may... In fact, this would be the time for me to reevaluate our house rules, right? It is going into 2024. If we're using those new rules, I would especially want to do them with like the least amount of extra variables so I can really get a feel for how those rules work. And if I want to do that, then I should do that with the least amount of my own house rules on top of that. So I could definitely see with the next campaign being more strict about just those kind of things, and having players, when they say that, like, well, we've done this in the past, to be like, well, this is a whole new ballgame. But then if it becomes an issue or it becomes annoying or something, then we can start adding those things back in as we need it. But I think to start, I would actually be interested in playing more strict with the rules, I think. What level is a spell if you can cast it without a spell slot? This is something I actually asked during, I think, the reviews I was doing of the classes. Unless the text says otherwise, a spell cast without a spell slot is cast at its lowest possible level, which is the level that appears in its description. So in other words, if you get a free cast of, say Misty Step, that really doesn't matter in terms of spell slots. I can't think on the top of my head of somebody that gets a gets a spell for free that doesn't scale. I don't know. But you would only be able to cast it at the spell the level that it basically first appears. An example of an exception to this is found in monster stat blocks. May have spells listed with a level version in parenthetical. Yeah, which happens with like the Staff of the Magi, right? That we had in our last campaign, where it specifically said you cast Fireball at like the 7th level version or some crazy thing, or was a Lightning Bolt. Maybe both of them. Is there a limit to the number of spells you can cast on your turn? Can I cast a reaction spell on your turn? Yeah, but still can only do one reaction. Yada, yada, yada. Wow, spells thing is a lot. Can use Dispel magic on the creations of a spell like Animate Dead. Ooh, that's a good question. This week in D&D is going to be me looking through the Sage Advice because I find this interesting. Oh, it's also interesting. If the damage from Disintegrate reduces an orc to 0 hit points, can Relentless Endurance prevent the orc from turning to ash? Yes. The Disintegrate spell turns you into dust only if the spell's damage leaves you with 0 hit points. If you're an orc, your Relentless Endurance can turn the 0 into a 1 before the spell can disintegrate you. That is a good ruling, as I think that would be an argument at the table where the orc player would say, like, well, I could use Relentless Endurance, turn to 0-1. The DM would be like, well, this takes you to 0. That is a good firm ruling. I like that that's in there. Dispel magic cannot break wild shape. Whenever you wonder whether a spell's effects can be dispelled or suspended, you need to answer one question. Is the spell's duration instantaneous? If the answer is yes, there's nothing to dispel or suspend. Oh, that's good. Magic flares for a split second, then vanishes. For example, the instantaneous spell Animate Dead turns a corpse or pile of bones into an undead creature. That necromantic magic is present for an instance and is then gone. The resulting creature now exists without the magic's help. Casting Dispel magic on the creature can't end its mockery of life, and the undead can wander into an anti-magic field with no adverse effect. That's interesting. I could have gone both ways with that as a DM. Yeah. I could see that, though, because otherwise you'd have to track, like, is every zombie created with Animate Dead, or were there other... Because zombies can be created in all the different ways, I guess. Same thing with Cure Wounds, which instantly restores hit points. In contrast, a spell like Conjure Woodland Beings has a non-instantaneous duration, which means its effect can be ended by Dispel Magic. All right, that's a really nice firm ruling. Makes Paladin Free Find Steed kind of useless. Oh, does it? Oh, talking about the free spell cast. I like this is a quick. Can the familiar you conjure with Find Familiar spell use the help action to grant you advantage on your attack roll? Literally everybody does this, but I guess finally DMs were like, all right, can people really be doing this? And the thing says, yeah, familiar can't attack, so its main use basically in combat is to take the help action or other non-attack actions. It wouldn't be that big of a deal if you let your familiar attack. Well, I guess there's powerful familiars if you take the certain... Well, I feel like that's like a warlock thing, where you get like the imps or the quasits or something. Those could be a little more powerful in combat at the lowest levels, I guess. Familiar does count as an ally for sneak attack. I'm actually liking this. This is a lot of good stuff. I need to remember this, because I definitely did not remember Sage Advice as a good, like, compendium for answers to questions. Ooh, I think about True Strike, which they changed True Strike, didn't they, with 2024? True Strike doesn't work with extra attack or any other feature that requires the attack action. Like other spells, the casting of an action, casting True Strike requires you to take the magic action. Which True Strike is you cast the spell, and then you make a weapon attack, which uses your spell casting ability for the attack and damage rolls instead of strength or dex. And you can deal radiant or normal damage. Yeah, you take the magic action, not the attack action. That is and that's something I pointed out in my reviews, is it doesn't actually combo with extra attack. So it's good in the early levels, but later on, if you're a martial who gets extra attack, then not so much. And you can't cast True Strike when making an opportunity attack, because again, it's a magic action, not an attack action. Attack made as part of True Strike does work with Sneak Attack as long as it fills the normal requirements for that feature. Okay, that's good to know. Unseen Servant is not an ally. It's an invisible, mindless, shapeless force. All right, well, I don't want to spend too long on this, but this is really good stuff. So this is the Sage Advice on D&D Beyond that has now been updated to basically include all of the 2024 rules. Big thumbs up. I'm enjoy reading through all that and getting answers to questions that I've certainly had, and I've been playing D&D for a good chunk of time now. Real quickly, I didn't put these as official like news posts or anything on the list, but Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins both got to put their, I guess, most famous roles or character. I mean, they're DMs mostly, but they have played characters before, and those characters are now available on D&D Beyond. If you go to characters and then go to pre-made characters, this is where they just throw all of them together, all the way since the earliest, like, I believe 2014 characters, and they added various pre-gen characters. There's the ones from the old animated series are in here. And then we've got Perkins's Kobold Sorcerer Spurt, which I think is pretty low level generally, level 3, yeah. And then Crawford's Vi, Gnome Artificer, which I love this character. I think I prefer Perkins as a DM ultimately. But Vi is such a fantastic character. I love Vi. She's amazing, and it's cool that at level 10 too. So that's pretty neat. I just wanted to point out the fact that those characters are there, and you can access them on D&D Beyond. I believe they're just free to check out. I got something in my eye, so I don't know what's happening there. And then real quickly, there's delays for Dragon Delves specifically in Europe and the UK. Maybe I'm an ignorant American. I thought the UK was considered Europe. Do we need to call out UK specifically? Due to shipping challenges, the release of Dragon Delves, the upcoming D&D Adventure Anthology, will be delayed in the UK and Europe by a month. This will impact both traditional and alternate cover versions of the book. So the original release date for North America is June 24th, which is they release it like a week, or in this case, it looks like 2 weeks early before kind of the mass market. So it'll appear first in local game stores, and then the mass market, like your Amazon and whatnot, will appear on July 8th, which means UK and Europe aren't going to get it till August 8th, which is the anticipated in-store release date for this book in the UK and Europe. If our shipping teams are able to work some magic, stores can sell this product as soon as they receive it, starting July 8th, so maybe it'll be available earlier than that. Obviously, digital release of Dragon Delves will be not impacted by the delay. I don't think this is anything related to tariffs necessarily, but they're certainly not. They just say shipping challenges, which is very nebulous. Could be anything, but worth pointing out. So hopefully folks can get Dragon Delves. Is anybody like super excited? I guess the main thing I'm interested in is this is the first real like adventure content we've had for the 2024 rules. So that's the reason I would be the most interested in getting my hands on it. And also just the first adventure book we've had in forever. But it's an anthology, right? So like I always temper my expectations when it comes to these anthologies. I mean, I think there can be some really good stuff in there, but it's not usually the same as, a full-on campaign thing, and I don't know what to expect. In fact, they've said even that some of them are good for like solo adventures, so maybe, which I assume are like the more lower level content maybe. So I have no idea what to expect. I haven't seen any like preview stuff about Dragon Delves or anything like that. I'll be going in basically just fresh and ignorant when I finally get my hands on it and review it later this summer. All right, finally moving on to our next news thing, topic, whatever. Demiplane is now officially integrated into Roll20, which is available via beta, I guess, right now. Demiplane is something I haven't used before, but is essentially D&D Beyond for everybody else. So, in fact, I think the team or the dude who made D&D Beyond, when they sold it to Wizards, I think he went again, I don't know the exact details of this, went to do Demiplane, which is essentially the same thing, but handles like a lot of other tabletop RPGs, but is the same thing where it's a digital website that you can put in your character sheet, and it's got rules in there, and allows you to have like digital library of that information for basically all these different RPG rule sets that are specifically not Dungeons and Dragons because they've got D&D Beyond. So for everybody else, there's MasterCard. It's the commercial, right? So what this means is that now you can sync and share your character sheets between Demiplane and Roll20, I believe. Or I think you can at least plug your Demiplane character sheet, like upload it or transfer it directly into Roll20. Which I don't know how popular Demiplane is. I assume Roll20 is more popular than Demiplane, but maybe this will help get people excited about using Demiplane. Which it does mention which ones are available to begin with, I think. Oh yeah, Demiplane character sheets available in Roll20 are Alien RPG. Hey, that's pretty relevant for my channel. Candela Obscura, which I think is by Critical Role folks. Cyberpunk, the Marvel Multiverse RPG game that came out a few years ago. Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. I think Starfinder was included also. Maybe they're including that in Pathfinder 2e, but those are all the ones that are specifically available right now. And there's a lot more, I believe, RPG sheets available in Demiplane. So you can link your Demiplane characters into new or existing Roll20 campaigns. You can use content you've unlocked on either Roll20 or Demiplane through cross-platform sync. God, this would be amazing if they could do this with D&D Beyond. Fuck. That would be so nice. Please work out that deal. That would be fucking cool. Roll20 subscribers enjoy Demiplane subscription perks, including content sharing with up to 24 people and unlimited character creation. That's all awesome. Excited to announce our intention to bring the full Cyberpunk Red library into cross-platform sync. Means that for every purchase previously made on Roll20 or Demiplane, we'll be syncing the full Cyberpunk Red library across platforms. I've not played the Cyberpunk RPG. The only thing I have experience with it is obviously Cyberpunk 2077, and I think like one of the Cyberpunk games, there was like two like back in like the fucking Sega Genesis days or something. They're like top-down RPGs or something. It's very vague memories. Remember the box art. Launch is a big step toward the future we're working towards, a connected, seamless experience when your character and adventures are always up to date and always within reach. Yeah, and this is what Demiplane looks like. On platform, endless adventure, character tools, groups, and matchmaking. And it looks very slick. It does have a subscription similar to D&D Beyond, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's a monthly subscription versus a pay nickel and dime thing along the way. Yeah, and there's more available on Demiplane. Daggerheart. There's the Alien. Boy, I like the everything changes for the color scheme too. By the way, I watched Aliens last night to put myself in the mood for doing Alien RPG, which I think I've only seen. So I have the old Alien Quadrilogy DVD box set. I don't even have the Blu-rays because at some point when streaming became a thing, I stopped buying Blu-rays. And I already had like a bazillion DVDs, so I'm just like, I don't want to upgrade everything. But I like my Quadrilogy box set, but it comes with the theatrical and director's cut of a lot of versions. And I'm not sure I've actually even seen the original theatrical cut of Aliens, because apparently the special edition came out like years and years and years and years ago. And when I was reading the little description about all the things added in the special edition, I was like, oh, I didn't realize those were even cut. So it's the 2.5 hour version that is the canon version for me. So yeah, Demiplane involved in Roll20. I don't know if any folks actually use Demiplane, but essentially it is the D&D Beyond for other RPGs. And now that it's integrated in Roll20, that seems like a really great boon for folks who can use both those and can actually share things between them. I would love for that to be the case in D&D Beyond. That would be incredible. I don't know if that'll happen. Hopefully it will. Now that Wizards kind of like shit the bed with Project Sigil and perhaps not going to be able to put out their own VTT, and maybe they can work out some kind of deal with Roll20. I'm sure maybe some negotiations are happening where they can even just outright purchase something on Roll20, but hopefully that actually won't happen, because I think Roll20 being friendlier to like all RPG systems and not just a D&D thing would be preferable for everybody. Saw Aliens in the theater. I was way too young to watch it in the theater. I did see the original Alien when it released. In fact, my wife and I were just talking about this because I dragged her to see it before we were married. I believe it was the 30th anniversary of Alien, which would have been 2009, I think. That would have lined up exactly. We went. I think it ran in theaters, and I got to go see Alien in theater for the first time. I'd obviously seen it before a bunch of times, and it was an amazing movie. But that's really cool whenever they do that. By the way, I try to take advantage of that. Whenever theaters do these like cool re-releases for whenever Transformers the animated movie, one of my favorite all-time movies. It would have been another anniversary year. Which one of this? Let's see. They just probably did. God, the fucking 40th is gonna be soon. So it was. I don't know what it was, like 30, 35, something like that. And I went and drugged the whole family to see that one. It was an amazing experience. And the fans are always really cool when you go see. These, it's almost going to like a mini convention because everybody's like, oh, this is, you're paying just tickets to go see like a movie that everybody already knows and quotes, and everybody's clapping during scenes and cheering. It's a really cool experience to go watch like just fun older movies and have like a neat crowd there. What else we got on the docket? Larian Studios' future. I figured that we could talk about this, which is actually a video that GameSpot ran, or an interview, sorry, with Sven Wijk, actually pronounce his name, of Larian Studios. And obviously they're the developers of Baldur's Gate 3, which is one of the best things to happen in Dungeons & Dragons since, I don't know, whatever. What would the best? Probably like Critical Role? I don't know. But amazing game and does D&D really well. But what are they doing next? Because they have such amount of goodwill. It reminds me of CD Projekt Red coming off of Witcher 3 or something, right? Where it's like whatever they do next is going to get the biggest hype because they did so well, like critically acclaimed and commercial success and everything on their most previous game. And the fact that they're not doing Baldur's Gate 4, notably, and they're not even, did any DLC, and yet it was such an ongoing, it released in early access in like 2020, I think, right? And then released in 2023. So it feels like it's been part of the conversation for years and years. And obviously was in development long before then. So I get that they want to move on to something else. But I'm going to play a little snippets of this interview.
So it's been a very long journey,
which is very low volume. Sorry.
With a bang in terms of what we were going to add to the game and hand it over to the modders. So the modding toolkit
that's max volume.
Received a significant update, so people can now start making campaigns. So we're going to see what's going to come from that. I think you'll see quite a few things if I hear the things that they're working on. And then really what you're going to see is us giving support to any major bugs that pop up. Operating systems change, platforms change. So
I usually have these too loud. I think this was too quiet.
Never say never. So you never know if we surprise people. It happens from time to time. But from where we are now, it really is focused on the next big things for us so that we can put all of our development attention there.
So last time we talked to you, speaking of next big things, last time we talked about the next project that...
What if your roof could pay you back? Sounds crazy, right?
Damn it, ads. Not in front of the stream.
A big kind of evolution of where you're at, but not the one that you've got in your head, which is the one.
This is on the GameSpot YouTube channel.
As an update now,
it's an hour-long interview. We're not going to watch the whole thing. But
what comes next for Larian and also the projects that you're working on?
What does come next
for the studio itself?
So I was just I just came out of a meeting where I told people I painfully remember now how much work it is to make a game or a big RPG. That's for sure. So we're deep in the trenches on working on our next big thing. It's shaping up quite well, actually. But it's crazy ambitious. I mean, like, there's so much new things that we can do these days. So yeah, it's complex. And on top of that, we're trying to figure out how we're going to be making 2 games. So we talked about that openly, that we're working on 2 games. So organizing ourselves for that also is also not the easiest thing in the universe, because we make very complicated games with lots of permutations, with lots of
they should be big enough where they can work on multiple games at different stages at a time.
Predicting when those are going to be finished is hard, and then trying to organize 2 games around that.
He's got a whiteboard behind him, by the way, which is fantastic.
Keeping ourselves busy, really.
Yeah. I mean, like, it sounds like you need to grow to kind of be able.
All right, so that's a couple minutes of it. It's actually time-stamped all the way through with all the various questions, which is really nice. I think he's an awesome dude. He's probably one of my favorite, and Larian's probably one of my favorite modern game developers at this point. They just haven't missed in the last, like, 10 years. They make amazing RPGs. They seem like they're the perfect size between not being this big corporate entity and still having, like, just the weirdness and the kind of indie flavor, but being big enough to make, like, big ass RPGs over the course of years and years. And Sven seems specifically that kind of rare overlap of somebody who's a just diehard gamer and geek and loves RPG shit, but also has, like, business acumen and, you know, all the production design knowledge and everything involved. And usually those can be conflicting things. And I think that's part of the reason that they're quite successful. So I always love following these guys, and there's a really great interview you can watch on GameSpot's YouTube channel, all about the future of Larian Studios. The one thing I think he mentions that I saw was that he's like, in 5 years I'll be able to tell you about it or something. I'm like, come on, I know that these big games take a while, you know, to make and spin up and everything, but surely we can at least hear about it, you know, sooner than that. My goodness. I have no doubt we won't see a new game by then. And it'll be interesting to see also if they tackle the early access thing, which they have uniquely done. A lot of RPGs don't go the early access route, and these guys specifically do and have done it for years to huge amounts of success, actually. So hopefully it won't take that long before we see their next projects coming out. But if I were to guess, I would say it is going to be RPGs, because that's just their whole wheelhouse and they're amazing at it. And it will probably be either a sequel to their own world, which is the Divinity world, or a new IP. I could see them definitely not wanting to do a new licensed IP following Baldur's Gate 3. Not that I thought they had, like, a bad experience with it or anything, but I just think that's where most people would want to come from after doing a licensed work. What are they working on? Yeah, they're not telling us, basically. He's just saying that they are having a lot of closed-door meetings, and I think it sounded like maybe they're doing multiple games, and that they're not going to be prepared to announce anything yet. There's a lot of good questions about, like, AI and machine learning. I think he's just really a smart dude, honestly. I think I respect the hell out of his opinion. And I think he knows a lot about, like I said, the industry and game design and all of that. So I'd highly recommend checking out this interview. There's a good part about why, like, they don't make DLC. And basically, like, well, we tried that one time and just didn't really take for us, so we just make games. But I love it. So check out that interview for sure. I've got an email recently about the I don't know how to pronounce this. Ruins of Symbaroum, which is Free League's RPG setting. Maybe they're an RPG system of Symbaroum, but specifically the Ruins of Symbaroum is for 5th edition. So it's like it's this world set, which is very, like, Dark Soulsy, like, weird in a creepy way, like kind of horror fantasy setting. Definitely got to be Eastern European, where all horror fantasy comes from. Yeah, deeper, darker, deadlier setting where unforgettable adventure awaits behind every crest and bend. Presents a world of clashing cultures and ideals, a world of mystery and adventure, a world consistently under threat from the darkness of the eternal night. That's one way to just make it creepy, is just always nighttime. It's from the Frost Maiden. Tread carefully not to serve the ruins of old, for the dark forces of Devokar Forest are about to awaken. So the setting handbook is now available on D&D Beyond. This was, I believe, or yeah, it was a Kickstarter. In fact, I can pull up the... Yeah, I've already got it here. Look at that. This was a Kickstarter back in 2021 or 22, maybe. Delivered a couple years ago. I believe this was, again, based on their original fantasy setting, world things, whatever. They're on their own world, but this is the 5e version of that. In fact, we could watch this video. That might give us an idea of what this is like, because I am not familiar at all with this one. Let's see what the volume's going to be like here. Or we're just not going to be able to play it. Oh, come on now. Oh, there we go. This is from the Ruins of Symborum Kickstarter, which again ended a couple of years ago. Catching up to the news. But is now available in D&D Beyond. I don't think we're going to get any narration here. It's a dark fantasy setting, rich in intrigue and mystery. Magic is dangerous, corrupting body and soul. Including custom origins, backgrounds, and classes. Over 4,000 backers. Yeah, sweet man, because it's free to play as changeling, ogre, troll, or undead. Okay. Those are enemies. Are you an outcast, a refugee, or raised by witches? All of the above. Smith, sorcerer, or a lowly thug. I wish there was a narrator so I could understand how to pronounce it. I was waiting for you. So probably a more, darker, serious fantasy world. There it is on D&D Beyond. Handbook is an exclusive composed for D&D Beyond, offers a glimpse of the world of mystery and adventure featured in the Symborum RPG. Players can utilize 16 different maps. That's pretty spiffy. Do they show me anything other than the art? That is a negative. We only show the artwork. Man. And I think it says it doesn't come with any rule. I mean, it's just literally just 5th edition. But it's like it's a setting book, right? It's just you want to play on this world, but using the 5th edition rules, which is probably the best way to introduce something like this to your players. And I know I would be more interested if a DM said, "Hey, I want us to play in a different world that's a lot more serious. It's a lot darker. Magic is more rare and secret and evil and mysterious. It's all that stuff, which is very different from the Forgotten Realms and a lot of traditional D&D settings. But you don't have to learn any new rule. Well, I mean, there are some new rules because there's new, playing as new races and classes and stuff, but it's all 5th edition already, right? Which is hugely beneficial for introducing these things for your players, because you don't have to teach them a whole new rule set. You can play within the existing framework of 5th edition, but be able to play in this new world. So to me, that's kind of the best of both settings. And then maybe if you really, really enjoy that, then you can go all right, what about, the specific rule set, which I think there is one. I guess it's just called probably Symborum. Somebody in the comments is going to be like, it's pronounced this. I'm sorry. I've never heard this word before. The Ruins of Symbaroum Sitting Handbook has a section for the DM full of revelations, truths, and plot hooks, ready to be developed into full-fledged adventures or in massive campaigns. So it's not an adventure book, nor is it a rule book. It's just a settings book. Player-facing section. 6 locations with backgrounds, conflict, maps, NPCs, and events. The DM to develop into one-shot adventures. Guidelines for staging different kinds of wilderness expeditions, including traveling, companions, events, ruin design, and more. That's interesting because I think we can all agree 5th edition isn't the best about wilderness travel. I would expect if I ran a poll and included a bunch of stuff about what people like and don't like in D&D, overland travel is probably at the bottom of that poll. So if this can actually, but it doesn't say rules, it says guidelines. Or like guidelines. But that could be helpful to make travel more interesting. So I wonder if that could be useful for anybody. Rules agnostic descriptions. All right, you're 5th edition. You don't have to be rules agnostic. 50 curiosities, 20 mystical items, and 12 magical items. An in-depth presentation of the changelings, dwarves, elves, goblins, humans, and ogres of the setting. I was told I could play an undead also. That's what the that's what the Kickstarter video said. We found in the Free League web shop and in stores, and then now it's on D&D Beyond. So pretty cool. I don't know much about other than what I've just gone over for this video. I'm not somebody who typically enjoys the grim, dark, serious setting too much. I don't play a lot of video games that do this either. But I know a lot of people really like it, and I feel like it's the Dark Soulsification also of a lot of video games where that's it is more like serious, and I don't think Gothic is the right. I wish I had a better descriptive term for that. Everybody just says Dark Souls and Souls-like and stuff, but Souls-like not in terms of gameplay, but in terms of like world design. So I don't know, just like fantasy horror is kind of the closest thing to that. Get a hold of a copy to review. Yeah, typically I review stuff if they come onto Roll20 because that's just what I'm most comfortable with in terms of checking it out. So if there's stuff like that that's on Roll20, then point it out to me and I can check it out on there. But that's typically the way. I mean, I can review a PDF also as well. But I figure if it's on Roll20, it usually gives me kind of the mass market appeal that I can be like, all right, let me start tackling this. And then the last thing I wanted to cover for this week's news is something I know nothing about. Maybe you all can help me with this. Is the world's largest dungeon, which I guess is an RPG book that is coming to BackerKit, which is a Kickstarter type website, crowdfunding website, in May. It's called the world's largest dungeon, the Guinness World Record winning dungeon crawl, fully updated to 5th edition. So that's what's coming May 13th, launching May 13th. So I'll probably talk about it again in like 2 weeks after it comes out and just see what the actual thing looks like. But I'm starting to see news about this basically. It's on BackerKit. Relive the most expansive dungeon ever published, or delve its depths for the first time. A behemoth adventure unlike any other. Over 1,600 original encounters. Oh my god. That's. I wonder if we were to take Dungeon of the Mad Mage and add up every single one of its encounters, how many you would get. I can't imagine you would end up with like a fourth of that. That's nuts. Who had to count that? 16 new boss miniatures. 16 poster-sized maps. Poster-sized. It's like the ones I have behind me in my office that have like the old school walkthrough dungeon maps are poster-sized. That's huge. So those are like entire full dungeons, 16 of them. Exclusive dice from Fanroll, 1,500 plus pages of fantasy entertainment. All right. I feel like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. You were so preoccupied with whether you could, you didn't stop to see whether you should. Does that, is it good? 15, I guess not necessarily mean it's bad, but 1,500 pages. My palms sweat when I start reviewing things that are like over 100 pages. Oh my goodness. It's got to be too much. Reserve now, get a free mystery bag. Reserve your pledge for $1. What does it mean to reserve your pledge? I guess you're like pre-committing even though it's not launched yet. Or maybe you can do it when it's launched also. Receive a mystery bag with your order. Oh, wait, they tell you what the mystery bag includes. Well, it's not a mystery bag then if you tell me what's in it. A full set of dice, a collectible coin, a premium dice bag, and a special single D20 from the boss dice set. There's the mystery bag. The mystery bag looks like it's got flavored nuts inside. It looks like the exact kind of bag that I buy my Smokehouse almonds in. Shout out to Big Nut. But also, if it's a mystery bag, it tells you, I guess you don't know exactly what kind of dice you're getting. All right, that's fair. Different colors and stuff. To receive this offer, place a $1 deposit and you will be locked in as a VIP. I'm a VIP and I only have to give $1? What a deal. Then when you back the project on BackerKit, you'll receive a free mystery bag with an MSRP of $20. Okay, so I guess you do reserve it now. So it's your chance to pre-lock in, which I assume then they put you in for $1 for the campaign, and then that way they can send you all the... Which, it's actually not a bad idea to do this, by the way. I'm being cynical, but a lot of folks, whenever they do crowdfunding campaigns, they will pledge $1 when it first starts or something as a way to like gain all of the... as a way to become a backer without committing basically any money. And it's a way for you to get all the updates and be included in the backer stuff. And then once the campaign wraps or is about to wrap or something, then folks can make that decision based on all the updates they've seen if they do want to go through and put in the actual money to back said product. Or if you don't want to do anything at all, you can even forget about it and be like, well, it's a fucking $1, so you're not really out anything. So it's not a bad idea if you're interested to just throw $1 in there. I don't know what happens if you throw the $1 in there and then you don't back it, though. It does say, then when you back the project, then you would receive the mystery bag. So, yeah, they're not going to give it to you just for throwing $1 at them. That would be that'd be a bad deal on their part. A coin and a scorched dice bag. Oh, yeah, why are we asking for a $1 reservation? Helps us more accurately forecast demand and production before we launch. Yeah, I explained it from the player-facing point of view. I guess that helps explain it from the company point of view. But yeah, obviously they want to have as many people sign up. Because I think on other websites, you can just click a button to follow. I guess BackerKit might do that as well. Oh, here we go. The history. Initially published in 2004 by Alderic Entertainment Group, which is a like board game company. I believe AEG. I think they do card games also. A groundbreaking RPG adventure that set a Guinness World Record for its unprecedented size and scope, featuring every monster from the SRD, which would have been... Okay, so 2004, help me out. Would this have been a 3rd edition? It would have been the era of 3rd edition. I don't know if that's what the rule set they use, but 2004 would have been 3rd edition. I was playing Neverwinter Nights at the time. Fantastic game. Mega Dungeon Campaign takes players from level 1 to 20 in a massive, interconnected underground world, designed to be an all-in-one, inescapable dungeon experience. Wow. I would love to see the map. I need to look up a map for this. Artwork's kind of fun. So this is, let's see, 20 years later. Now they're bringing it back to life, fully updated for 5e with new content, exclusive miniatures, stunning maps, and expanded adventures. Launches Crown campaign on May 13th. Will incorporate the latest rules, enhanced editing, and new artwork and maps. By our publishing partner, Strange Owl Games. And it lists all the things I talked about before. Secret Door encounters featuring guest designers from iconic worlds like Dragon Kings, Fading Suns, Torg Eternity, Thieves World, and more. Platinum Edition is a unique opportunity to relive seminal design work from industry legends who have gone on to shape the fantasy genre landscape. Robert J. Schwal with Shadow of the Demon Lord, Warhammer Fantasy, Richard Faris, Assassin's Creed and World of Warcraft. Regional lead designer Jim Pinto returns to the project entirely redesigning the infamous first level, providing an all-new adventure bringing players in the world's largest dungeon. It's a 4-book set. Yeah, you'd fucking have to divide it. It's literally divided alphabetically. Regions A through D. Regions E through H. So is it just like pure hack and slash, like playing Diablo or something? Because that's my biggest problem with these mega dungeons. In fact, I just recently reviewed Scarlet Citadel, which I think is going to go up for... I believe I put it up for patrons yesterday, and it's going to go up publicly today. And I talked about this in that adventures or campaigns that are pure dungeon crawls really struggle with storytelling, because it's hard to tell a compelling story when you just have a single location that just kind of delves deeper and deeper down. You can still have good like themes and some cool like you still have a balance of, you know, social role playing in there. You know, you have prisoners, you have monsters you can talk to, whatever. Exploration's obviously through the roof. I think, because to me, exploration actually works best in a dungeon crawl versus the wider world, because exploration is just your players, like, you know, doing skill checks. And in dungeon crawling, that's, you know, it's traps, it's secret doors, it's exploring different spaces, it's solving puzzles. Like, that actually solves the exploration pillar very well. And then obviously dungeons are full of combat. So I like dungeon crawling in 5th edition. I think D&D is best suited for dungeon crawling. But it is difficult to tell a halfway decent story that's not just, hey, let's just get together and play, you know, the equivalent of a ARPG hack and slash video game, which I love doing. But I don't know if that would be worth doing in a tabletop RPG format. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Oh, they show little pages of the book. That's nice. I do like the artwork though. It looks it looks like traditional D&D artwork while still looking modern, if that makes sense. A dungeon housing over 1,000 monsters is going to need a food source. Yeah. Show me the maps. I want to see the maps. People love their minis. I don't care as much. No, you're going to show me the maps, you bastards. All right, well, I was intrigued, as I'm sure a lot of you are, by just the name World's Largest Dungeon. I am not familiar with the original one, so if you are, please let me know, because I am certainly fascinated by this concept. This is arriving on BackerKit, which is a crowdfunding website, on May 13th, about 2 weeks from today. I don't know what the prices or anything are. I don't think I guess we'll know about that when they actually release it, when they start the crowdfunding campaign. But the big update right now is that you can pledge $1, and then that puts you in as already basically pledged to the campaign. You're only giving $1, and then you get this free dice bag set should you end up backing the campaign, which, again, there doesn't seem like there's much downside to doing that. In fact, I don't know exactly how BackerKit. I assume it's the same as Kickstarter. I think I've backed things on. Yeah, you can see I've got my profile up there, so I've definitely backed things on BackerKit before. I assume you can back out at whatever time you want. So you could pledge the $1, and then the campaign, you see the prices, or the campaign doesn't excite you, and you can just pull back out, I think, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure on that. But that is the world's largest dungeon, which by their bullet point list certainly seems like it is indeed that. All right, I think that is going to do it for this week in D&D, all the news I've got. Thank you all for joining me, and as always, big thank you to the patrons for helping to support this channel and support these kind of live streams. Shouts to Platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brennan, Zensider, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Libby Spuds, Warden, Hill, Demon, LC, Tom, the Eating the Dogs, Marcus, Snuggy, Hugo, Shay, Chris, and Matthew, and gold patrons: RPG Paper Crabs, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Lizard Lounge, Drone, Nathan Fascicatora, Scott Ruffus, Jerry Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our first session of Alien RPG.